I gave my last bowl of noodles to a man everyone else crossed the street to avoid, and a black SUV showed up at my stall before the soup even cooled. By sunset, my fiancée's side chick crashed my housewarming and called my new place her engagement gift. If it were you, what would you have done? My name is Lauren. I'm a single mom, and this is the part of my life I thought I'd never say out loud. The part where kindness opened a door I wasn't ready for, where betrayal walked in wearing perfume, and where a secret I didn't know I was carrying flipped everything again and again until the truth finally stood still. That morning in Laros, the city tuned itself like it always does. Danfoss honking hawkers calling the air smelling like wet dust and pepper, and I was behind my little roadside stand, stirring a pot that was more steam than soup. Amelia, my 7-year-old, sat on a plastic stool, legs swinging, cheeks full of puff-puff, pretending not to stare at the extra boiled egg I'd saved for good days. We didn't have many good days, but we had rules. Fresh food only, even for strangers, dignity first. You know what I mean. He came in slow, like a shadow, testing the light. Oversized shirt, dusty shoes, hands shaking, as if the words might break. "Excuse me, can I have just a little?" he said, voice dry and careful. "I don't have money, but I haven't eaten since yesterday." I didn't think I moved. Fresh noodles, extra egg bowl steady in my hands. Amelia leaned forward like a tiny nurse. "Grandpa, Mommy says, leftover food can hurt your tummy. This one is fresh." He laughed through his tiredness, took a bite, closed his eyes, and I swear I saw a person remember. He was human right there on the bench. "God bless you, my daughter," he said, hand to his chest, eyes wet. I told him to rest a bit, pretended not to hear my own stomach complain because I'd just given away my breakfast. Then it happened. A black SUV slid to a stop across the road. Men in suits stepped out like the air belonged to them, and one of them said a name that sounded like a headline. Par Benson. The old man looked up and smiled like he'd been expecting them. "Tell my son Felix I won't go home until he meets her," he said, pointing at me. "She gave me kindness, not just food. She's the kind of woman a man should marry." "Wait, what?" They helped him into the car, doors thudded. The vehicle disappeared into traffic, and I just stood there with a ladle in my hand and an ache in my chest that felt like hope and trouble mixed together. If you were me, would you laugh? Would you run? Would you ask who Felix is? Or would you keep stirring and pretend life doesn't change in a single minute? That afternoon, life did that other thing it loves to do. It showed me a check and asked if I believed in miracles. The government compensation for my late father's demolished house finally cleared. $2 million. I held the envelope like glass all the way home. Michael was on the mattress, shirtless, phone in hand, not even looking up when I walked in. "You're just coming back," he said flat. Then I told him about the money and watched his eyes sharpen into plans. "We need to move fast," he said. "Host houses go quick. Put it in my name so agents take us seriously. You know how it is." I hesitated just enough for the room to tilt. Then I smiled and said I trusted him. Later, while the street went quiet, he stepped outside to make a call. I listened from the window like women do when the shadows don't feel right. "Yeah," he whispered. "She got the money. Once the house is in my name, she's finished." Yeah, that happened. 2 nights later, the compound smelled like grilled chicken and jollof. A banner hung crooked over rented chairs. Neighbors in slippers and wrappers drifted in, and I moved from room to room, refilling cups, fixing Amelia's hair, telling myself the heaviness in my stomach was just nerves. Then I heard heels. Vanessa, tight yellow dress, sunglasses like she owned the sun, calm as you please. She didn't look at me. She walked straight to Michael and turned to the crowd with a smile that could cut a ribbon. "I'm so happy to show off the house Michael bought me as my engagement gift." The room breathed in and forgot to breathe out. A drink hit the floor. I set down a tray so my hands wouldn't embarrass me. "What did you just say?" I asked, voice steady, heart sprinting. And right then, pattern interrupt. Another SUV rolled in like punctuation, and a man in a clean suit stepped out, calm and focused eyes scanning the room until they found mine. "Miss Lauren," he said, "my grandfather insisted I meet you." People whispered Benson under their breath, and Michael tried to hitch a smile onto his face, but Felix, that was the man's name, looked from the banner to Vanessa to Michael and said, "Interesting party, but I believe it's built on the wrong foundation." Michael started with, "Sir, this is just a misunderstanding," and Felix cut gently, cleanly, so lying to a woman stealing her money and parading another woman at a housewarming. She funded is a misunderstanding. Vanessa folded her arms. "This is none of your business." Felix didn't blink. "My grandfather's well-being is my business, and he's here because of the woman you tried to humiliate." That night, when the speakers went quiet and the whispers turned mean, Felix met me at my stall. He talked about Papa's dementia, how he hadn't smiled in months, how that bowl had given him a day of clarity and a reason to talk again. "I don't believe in marriage," he said. "Not dressing it up, but I'm asking for a 1-year contract. In name only. For him. We keep it private, clear boundaries. You and Amelia safe. No more Michael." I looked down at my girl asleep on my lap, looked at the steam coming off my pot, and realized I didn't want a mansion. I wanted quiet. "I'll do it," I said, "for Papa, not for you." He nodded. "That's enough." 2 days later, iron gates opened onto a driveway lined with palm trees that looked like soldiers, and Amelia ran under a chandelier calling it a hotel, while I stood with my shoes still by the door, the house smelling like clean glass and lemon, wondering if a person can own safety without feeling like a guest. Papa hugged us and said, "No, sir, here, call me Papa," and a housemaid took our bags like we were made of something fragile. Felix offered me a job at AJ Enterprises, his fashion company, assistant in the design department. I wore a plain blouse and shoes that clicked too loud on marble. The floor hummed with women who used confidence like perfume. The whispers found me before the printer did. Street girl CEOs pity hire instant noodles couture. Angela, the senior designer, smiled with her lips and not her eyes. "You look focused," she said, loud enough to land on every desk, sketching aprons and soup spoons. I kept my pencil steady and said, "Rough concept sketch. I'm good at work, bad at fights." Felix walked in without warning. A quiet fell that felt like gravity. He looked at Angela, then at me, then back at Angela. "From now on," he said, "feedback is professional or it doesn't happen." He left, and the silence he left behind had teeth. Do you think that's fair, or is that just another version of power working for people it likes? Be honest. We launched an internal brief for an Afro-modern rebrand. I sketched from memory. Sunday shirts that were ironed even when money was wrinkled headscarves, that were crowns, lines that were modest and strong at the same time. Angela got into the system, swapped tags, deleted my mood board, smiled at me in the hallway like she knew something I didn't. The next morning, I rebuilt. No slides in the pitch, just story and hands that knew fabric. International buyers flew in, the room went quiet the way rooms do when people start listening with their whole bodies, and one of them leaned to Felix and whispered, "That's authenticity." We got the deal. Angela got demoted. I went home to make noodles and turned down the fan because the house finally felt warm. Then Starlight Academy happened. We prioritized certain backgrounds, the principal said, pushing my complete file back with 2 fingers. I walked out of that office with Amelia's hand in mine, and a knot in my throat I didn't want to swallow. Felix made a call, sponsorships got threatened, then a student's TikTok went viral. The principal caught taking a bribe from Angela to block my application. By noon, he'd resigned. Parents screamed in comment sections, board members scrambled, and Amelia got a call back like we'd just been misplaced. If it were you, what would you have done? Turn down the help to prove a point, or open the door that was always supposed to be open? Do you think that's fair? Michael showed up outside my office, thinner, angrier, asking for a small $500K to clear a debt. I told him the truth. No. He said the line men save for cutting women down to size. What man would marry a woman who already had another man's child? Amelia heard him, planted her little shoes between us, fists tight. "Don't bully my mommy," she said. I put my hand on her shoulder and felt power where I used to feel fear. Here's the twist. The one that turned the whole map upside down. A jade pendant around Amelia's neck. A tiny silver leaf on my bracelet. A blurry hotel security video from 7 years ago. Felix had kept a file he never showed anyone, a night he barely remembered. Drugged, shaking a woman's voice, a hand he clung to like a rope. He sent the footage to a forensics team, then he handed me an envelope with his hands shaking just enough to confess he already knew. I read the words, and the room got quiet inside my body. Paternity match, 99.9%. I told him what I had never said out loud. You were brought in by 2 men. You were scared and apologizing for everything you didn't do. You asked me not to leave you alone. I took you to a guest room, wrapped a blanket around you, held your hand. The lights were dim, I didn't see your face clear, but I saw how broken you were, and I gave you my first night. Then you were gone. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for 7 years. You saved me, he said, not just my grandfather, me. Papa stood in the doorway with Amelia smiling, the way people smile at the end of a long prayer. No more contracts, he said, no more pretending. We had a small wedding in the garden, yellow roses, soft music, no press, no pretending, just family. Amelia carried the rings with both hands, serious and proud. And when the pastor asked, Felix said, "I do," before the question finished. I said, "I do," like a promise you make even to the future you can't see. We cut cake. Papa told the same story twice, and nobody corrected him, because joy doesn't need neat edges. It didn't stop the storms. Angela burst through the gate one afternoon, eyes lit with fury, called me names I won't repeat, shoved Papa when he asked her to leave, and found out what it sounds like when a man who loves his family says, "You're fired," and means it. Security walked her out, and the next week the headlines wrote the rest. Fraud, bribery, tampering with school systems. Handcuffs, not high heels. Michael showed up drunk at our gate and tried to drag me into a car outside AJ Enterprises later, but Felix had already set 2 guards to walk me to the lot. They tackled him, and the police did their job with a speed I haven't always seen in my city. Privilege or progress, you tell me. Do you think that's justice, or is that just power doing what it does best? Work turned a corner I never expected to see. My name went up on the board as lead designer, my first line called Humble Grace. Earth browns and sky blues, clean lines, models barefoot on the runway to honor the ground we all walk on. Critics called it boldly modest, which sounds like a joke, until you see a dress hold a woman like a promise. At home, the laughter got louder. Papa beat Amelia at checkers for real, which is how we knew he was getting stronger. Amelia built a little solar fan for her science fair, for street vendors like my mommy used to be. And when she held up the ribbon, I forgot how to breathe for a second. At AJ's annual conference, Felix did something I didn't see coming. No slides, no numbers, just us. He took my hand on stage, called me his wife, brought Amelia up next to us, and knelt to look in her eyes. From today forward, he said, voice steady and warm, Amelia Benson is my daughter and my heir. The room stood, some people clapped through tears, others calculated shares with their mouths closed, but that's fine, people are people. Papa whispered to no one in particular. I told you she was special, and it felt like a house blessing. We opened a studio. We started a foundation for single mothers. Amelia named it the Noodle Heart Project because she has a way of naming things without making them heavy. We run trainings, fix lost paperwork, put beds under women who have been sleeping on questions, hand someone a spoon and a mirror, and say, look, you're still here. On quiet nights, we eat at a long wooden table, windows open, bowls, steaming, fan humming, and I touch Felix's hand and think about the day a stranger asked for just a little, and I gave away my breakfast and got a life. But let me tell you why I wanted to share this, not for the SUVs or the headlines, not for the promotion or the wedding photos, but for the question that won't leave me alone. When the school tried to shut the door, a phone call opened it, and it opened fast. When the principal took a bribe, a camera and a last name made consequences happen by lunch. When Michael grabbed my arm, security was there because a CEO decided my hallway should be safe. Is that justice, or is that just power with better manners? If it were you, what would you have done? Hold back and take the slow road to prove you're pure? Or use what you have to, write what you can, even if your lane is clearer than your neighbor's? I keep coming back to that bowl, to fresh food in a clean dish, to the way the old man's shoulders fell when he remembered he mattered. That's the whole gospel to me. Use what you have to make someone feel human, then make the system answer for why it didn't. Some people will say I didn't deserve starlight until I paid in years the way others did. Some will say burn the gate and build a new school that doesn't need referral letters. Some will say noodles don't change anything. I think kindness isn't a plan, but it's the only thing that's ever paid me back in a currency I want. So tell me, where do you draw the line between privilege and protection, between fairness and speed, between mercy and accountability? Do you think we handled the principle right? Or did we play the same game with nicer cards? Which moment hit you hardest? The housewarming crash, the DNA twist, the stage where Felix named Amelia his heir. If this story made you feel something, anger, hope, both at once, stick around, because what happens when the Noodle Heart Project meets women braver than me will blow your mind. Like the video. If you felt the heat from that first bowl, subscribe. If you want more true stories told from the ground, where they happened, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Agree with me, argue with me, or tell me about the one small act that flipped your life. If it were you, what would you have done?